Tori Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Billy Thomas, Swarnich, Wax, Walters, Ferraro, one member present, 2 members present.
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
President.
I understand that Mr. Kosky has just arrived. We're going to give Mr. Ferraro another 2 minutes. And then I'll make a motion to adjourn. The members who are here, the majority of present voting, will be a decision that will be made by the entire country. Counting down from 60, we're down to 40, 39, 38, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc.
Council be in session. We have Mr. Holden and Ms. Miskowski. 3 members present. We need 7 more for a quorum. It's 15 minutes after 10, and we have 6 members present. We need 4 for a quorum. Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Alatorre, Mrs. Chick, Mr. Fuhr, Mr. Ridley Thomas, Mr. Savornich, Mr. Wax, and Mrs. Walters, please come to the council table. Would the council please come to order? Call the roll.
Alarcon, Alatorre, Burnson, Chick, Fuhr, Galanter, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Ridley, Thomas, Swornich, Wax, Walters, Ferraro. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, this is a meeting of the City Council for the City of Los Angeles on the 18th day of March, 1998. There are 15 council districts in the city. The regular meeting days are Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We are currently being viewed by cable subscribers throughout the Los Angeles area on Channel 35, and we're also being monitored by council phone. The first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Wax moves, Mrs. Waller second. If there's no objections, unanimous vote. Next item.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
If there's no objections, unanimous vote. Next item.
Items noticed for public hearing, items 1 through 11.
Okay, we have a request that 4 be continued until March 17th.
Until April 17th.
April 17th, I'm sorry. April 17th. And we have somebody who wants to be heard on 1, so we'll call that one special. Savornich had to go get something to eat. You can wait a few minutes for your food, can't you? Okay. Are there any specials by councilman? Anybody want to be heard on any of these items except 1 through 9? Or 1 through 11?
1 through 11.
1 through 11. Anybody want to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Any specials by council members?
1 through 11 only.
Okay, we have, prepare the roll on
Items 1 through 11 except for 4 and 5.
4 and 5 has been continued until April 17th.
April
and-
17th and 5 is continued to April 1st.
Yes, and then we'll hold 10 and 11 because they're ordinances. So prepare the roll on the balance, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Now we have item number 1. We have a Richard Donaldson who wants to be heard. Mr. Donaldson, I see you found the chamber.
Yes, thank you. Is this on? Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've received a notice of this hearing regarding the property that I am in the process of reconstructing. We did have some earthquake damage. The property is 22057 Wyandotte Street in Canoga Park. They were talking about a cleaning of the property and an assessment of $1,769.60. I have, and would I give these two pictures? Pictures of the property that were taken this morning at 8 o'clock, showing that there is no trash or weeds or grass on the property. Would I give these to the...
Sergeant, could you help us? There's an awful lot of people standing around that don't belong in the horseshoe area. Would you please get behind the pillars or leave the council chamber and let the gentleman speak so he can be heard? All right, Mr. Donaldson, proceed.
I just gave the Polaroid pictures of the property in question. These photos were taken by myself this morning at 8 o'clock in at the property address at 22057 Wyandotte Street. There is no need for the city to do the cleaning. I have done it. I really don't have any other things to say. You can see that the work is done, and I shouldn't have to be assessed this $1,700. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. We'll hold this on the desk because, did you want to say anything? Let's wait until Mrs. Chick gets here. Okay, the next item.
Next item, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have been held, items 12 through 18.
Are there any, and which one?
15?
15 is called special?
I think 18.
12 through 18. 12 through 18. Any specials besides 15?
Mr. President, I'd like to vote no on 13. I don't need to call it special, but I would like to vote aye on the other items.
Okay. Well, 13 is an ordinance, and so it'll go over 1 week.
Which one is it?
13.
Yeah, I want to vote.
That doesn't change it, Joe. It still goes over 1 week. No.
What number?
All right.
And
On item 13, prepare the roll on item 13 so we can have the no votes, and so it'll go automatically go over 1 week. Tabulate the vote.
10 aye, 2 noes.
Okay, that has been taken care of, and that item goes over 1 week. Okay, and we have item number 5. Any others?
item number...
I mean
15.
15, item 15. Item
Miss-
15, okay, prepare the,
Mr. Ridley Thomas's office would like to call number 16 special. Number 16.
okay, we'll call 16 special. So, actually, we have the ordinances at 10 and 11, so why don't we go from 10 through 18 with the exception of 13, which has already been taken care of, 15, and 16. And 12. Tabulate the vote. Yeah, Joe did. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have not been held, items 19 through 42.
22.
Sergeant, it's very noisy around here. I can't hear the minute clerk. Would you repeat?
Items number 19 through 42, items for which public hearings have not been held.
Okay, we have somebody who wants to be heard on 20, so we'll call that a special. Mr.
20
Burnson wants
22
25 special.
22 special, please.
22, Mr. Fuhrer.
25 special.
Yeah, that's been called special already. Any other
And-
specials?
Is 37 going to committee, or is it?
37 was put on the agenda inadvertently, and the
Okay.
motion will be...
Yeah,
Thank you.
37 is going to committee, so we'll delete that one. Any others? 19 through 42, with the exception of,
With the exception of 20,
20.
22, 25, and 37.
tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item.
You have closed hearing items, Mr. President.
We'll leave that on the desk.
Next item, Mr. President, number 12, called special by Councilmember Wax.
Well, we have item 1. Mrs. Chick, did you have a chance to look at that?
And I'd already been in touch with my district office staff. I move that we approve the assessment.
Okay. All right. Prepare the roll on item number 1. Is a motion needed, or just you moved approval?
Just, Councilmember Chick moved approval.
Yeah, okay. Prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Yeah. Yeah, just. Came, so, yeah, well, the council meets Mrs. Chick has about 15 certificates, I hope. Mrs. Chick for a presentation.
Could I ask for reconsideration on 23F and 23R for purposes of technical amendments?
Objections to reconsideration of 23?
Come up and join me.
Seeing none,
kinda
the matter
close
is
in around
before
me.
us.
And the amendments have been submitted to the clerk, and
For any of you get you'll be on it tonight. Mr. President, colleagues, I ask you to take a brief pause and join with me today in honoring some very special young people. I'm here to pay tribute to 14 members, I'm not sure all 14 are here, of the AmeriCorps program, which, as you know, is a federally funded program for young adults who are interested in committing significant number of hours and their energy and their focus and their talents to community service in exchange for assistance in furthering their higher education. The program was established by President Clinton and provides educational opportunities to Americans of all ages and backgrounds who make that substantial commitment to public service. The young people here today have volunteered together over 1,700 hours of service to the Los Angeles Police Department to earn college grant assistance. They worked in many of your communities, in Hollenbeck, Southeast, Southwest, Newton, 77th, Wilshire, and Rampart divisions of the LAPD. They assisted with youth programs. They helped the senior lead officers while participating in many community activities. On behalf of the entire City Council, I want to thank and congratulate these young people, thank them for their tireless work on behalf of the LAPD and the people of Los Angeles, and I wish them good luck in their college endeavors and in their future. I don't know if there's a spokesperson who wants to say a few words. They're all very shy, and so with that, I want to congratulate them and thank them, and if you'll join me in the back room, I'll give you all certificates of appreciation. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Chick. The next item,
Next item, Mr. President, item number 3.
item number what?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, item number 12, called special by Mr. Wax.
Mr. Wax, you call 12 special?
Everyone else knows but me, but I'm seeing a 5-page single-spaced report. It's actually not a committee report, as I understand it. It's a communication from the CLA and the CAO.
There is also a committee report. Would it help you if I described a little bit
It
of the
would
history
help
of that?
if you did, and if the CLA and the CAO and Water and Power would come forward and give a thorough and detailed description, not only for the council, but for the public as to exactly what's involved. So.
Well, let me just start with just a small piece of history here, and then we'll let them do the substance. Joel, what you have before you is the report that was submitted to the committee by the CLA and the CAO reviewing the proposal of DWP. The committee met last Friday, and in the report, you'll see some recommendations for revisions to some of the ordinances. Between the time that report was written and the time the committee acted, the Water and Power Commission made those revisions. So what is before the council today, what the committee adopted and what is before the council today is the concept plan and the plan in concept and the 2 revised ordinances. And there should be a 1-page addendum to that report. I don't know if that was distributed this morning or not.
Mrs. Walters?
I have a couple of questions, and maybe they'll...
All right. I don't mind Ms. Walters speaking. I didn't want to speak. I wanted, perhaps we could get first a thorough analysis.
You call it special, Mr. Wax, and you want to...
Yes.
Well,
refer to
the
this-
point of this is to have the staff let everyone know exactly what we have before us, and then we could better discuss it.
Okay, why don't we do that, and then we'll call on Mr. Wax, because he did call it special.
Mr. President, members of the council, what you have before you is a review of the Department of Water and Power's action plan to respond to competition. Basically, that plan came over, and it involves a way of eliminating the debt of the Department of Water and Power by paying off our outstanding debt by reducing cost of operation and elimination of 2,000 positions to various other cost savings measures, and restructuring and refinancing our existing debt. Also, as a part of this plan, this is a 4-year plan to basically prepare ourselves for competition in the new unregulated electric utility or electric power industry. There are 2 ordinances that are attached that we think are of importance. One is basically freezes the rates at the current level, and so therefore all the restructuring and the repayment of debt and the cost reduction will result from internal numbers, not the internal cost savings, not from increasing rates either on residential or commercial and industrial. The second one is kind of an unprecedented ordinance in that it gives the general manager the authority to go and make long-term contracts of 7 to 10 years with any customer who's willing to sign up for that period of time. And what the ordinance permits is that the general manager would be able to offer a 5% or about a 0.5% per year for the period of time the long-term contract lasts. This, we think, will provide for an ability to keep customers that we're concerned under the restructuring might, at some point when we go to open access, leave the department customers. In any event, so basically, the essence of this report is agreement with the restructuring plan that has been presented by the Department of Water and Power, which will result in 2,000 less people, an ordinance to freeze the rates at the current level, and thirdly, allow the Department of Water and Power General Manager to make contracts with long-term contracts for power where certain customers, those that he can entice to make a contract with the city. And that's the essence of it.
Mr. Wax, I'd actually like to parallel and step back a little bit. We all watched the airline deregulation. The utilities in this country really have probably twice as difficult a job, because not only are they accepting competition, it's like rebuilding the airplane midair because the technology changed. And what happened when technology changed, you can produce power in the new plants less expensive. The only way we can compete is to pay off the debt on the existing plants, and their plan is to pay off that $4 billion, then we continue to be competitive. If we do not do this, our rates in Los Angeles will be substantially higher for both individual residential customers and businesses and everybody around us. They're all doing the same thing in California right now, and it's a national movement. So the package before you does just exactly as the CLA has said. It freezes rates in place, promises a future residential decrease, allows the department to try to protect its major customers, but in that process there's going to be great pain. There'll be a reduction of 2,000 staff, there'll be a reduction in capital programs, there'll be a massive effort over the next 4 years to bring that debt down to nothing. We believe the department's ordinances before you today are workable, and we believe it's a very first but most significant step, and they will report back on a routine basis to you as they go. It's all provided in here. At the end of this period, we would hope that our rates, and the general manager will tell you, will be better than the private sector around us. That we have certain advantages that they do not have. We do not pay taxes, we do not pay franchise fees, we do not have to pay stockholder dividends, we borrow at lesser costs. So we should continue that record we've had for a long time of better utility rates, but we have to move very rapidly because the private sector is moving to pay off their debt right now and get rid of their surplus power plants. The ability to make contracts, we have just a few thousand very major customers, big users, and you don't want those to leave the system because they pay a big part of the capital cost of the operation. So if they will sign up for us for a long period of time, meaning 10 years or so, the general manager can give, without changing anybody else's rates, up to a 5% discount to encourage them to stay in the system. We wouldn't want them to leave the system. We encourage them
Is
to
the
stay.
5% discount the maximum deviation from what applies to everyone else?
Yes. Right.
And what percentage of the total users does that several thousand represent?
Well, just to say that the ordinance does not...
No, excuse me, Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Comrie, you said that this only applies to I think
It's a few thousand.
Few thousand
But
customers.
it's about.
But what percentage of the total use do those few thousand represent? I'll bet you they represent a very major percentage
Well,
of the
and
water.
what you're looking for is how much of the power do they use? It's a very large portion of it. Right.
Yeah.
30.
What
The
percentage?
large customer use 1/3 of the power.
The businesses that would be possibly eligible for this type of negotiation represent about 1/3 of the overall power use.
Power use.
Mr. Wax, let me just correct one. Our problem of competition is in that category of customer. However, but I want to make it clear, the ordinance is applicable to any customer. 100% of the customers, 100% of the power. That's what I was trying to clarify. It is not limited just to commercial industrial customers. It is across the board.
They can all get the discount?
Then
what's the discount?
Let me just so there's an understanding of this
Explain it.
ordinance.
Just explain it, yeah.
The ordinance gives the general manager the authority to enter into a 10-year contract, a 7 to 10-year contract. I'll just read the provisions. First off, we want the Department of Water and Power to do an updated cost of service study before negotiating these contracts. Provide until open retail access is implemented, and this is the situation in which customers, outside firms can sell electricity to our customers. This council will have to make a decision. But prior to that time, a maximum discount of 5% on the total rates for individual customers, all customers, 0.5% per year for a maximum 10 years based on the negotiation for power generation, transmission, and distribution. The contract revenue has to cover the Department of Water and Power's marginal cost for generation, debt service applicable to that customer, and such additional margins that can be competitively obtained. In other words, what we're saying is that this will not allow the existing customer to not pay their fair share of what has been categorized in the industry as stranded cost, this additional debt that now we have to pay off. That would have to be paid off as part of the contract. Provide that the rates and discounts shall be only in effect until open retail access. Then if this council makes the decision to go to open access, then the rate for generation would be the general, what is known as the power exchange rate for generation, which will be a statewide rate for generation. In order to make sure that the accounting is all, we've required that the DWP chief accounting employee also has to sign off on the deal points of the contract. And we have a situation where it's being audited, and also that the general manager has to report to the mayor and city council on a quarterly basis on the kinds of contracts.
Assure them of their 5%.
And also, we're also ever conscious of the general fund. We are also that the general fund transfer would have to be guaranteed in the contract as well. So what we've done is allowed within certain constraints the ability of the general manager to make contracts up to a 5% reduction for all for any customer. But at the same time, the constraints are that the cost of debt that's outstanding, the cost of marginal cost of generation, et cetera, have to be covered in that contract, and that's the constraints of the ordinance. But it's for any customer. So if for example, at some point an aggregation of residential customers wanted to make a long-term contract with the general manager, that would be perfectly, not if you had a homeowners association or a series of apartment houses or something like that. We're not condominium. We're not trying to limit it to just those 2,000 customers. Obviously, those 2,000 customers and that 1/3 of the power is our most important concern, but the ordinance in no way limits it to that.
Okay, Mr. Wax, did you want anything else? All right, Mrs. Walters?
Thank you. I have two questions. It says to create separate business units, and I want to know in detail what that's going to mean. The elimination of 2,000 positions. I read in the paper this morning where you're not going to eliminate 2,000 positions, that the settlement you reached with the engineers and architects mandates something else. The other thing I'd like to know, it says the adoption of the revised ordinance will freeze electric rates, and is that for everybody or just for a few? All right, then the last question is, when you speak of the maximum discount of 5% on total rates, what happens to the low-income provisions that you currently have with respect to rates for people of low income?
The business units are the same as everyone in the industry is moving toward. A distribution business unit, a transmission business unit, and a generation business unit. The industry is being restructured and divided into three components.
Does that mean DWP is no longer an entity?
No, ma'am. It means that within the DWP umbrella,
there would be these departments.
These departments,
Okay.
yes, ma'am. The
All right.
second question is that we have a tentative understanding subject to the review by the ERC and this council, which means that we have an understanding with all of the various bargaining units. But we still expect that as a result of the voluntary separation program, that we will have a workforce, approximately 2,000 people less than what we started with, so that our goal there and our expectation is not changed. Fortunately, we've now worked out agreements, so we probably will not have to lay off very many people. We expect the great bulk of it to be through
Attrition.
voluntary acceptances of the
Okay.
of the large package.
Quickly,
the freeze,
Mr. Freeman, yeah.
the freeze is for all the rates. Residential customers are assured that their rates will not go up, and indeed, we are even eliminating the fuel adjustment clause so that we are taking the risk of fuel prices going up. The rates to the constituents will not go up.
All right, very quickly now, the rates for the low-income people.
That will stay the same. We are not changing that. They will continue to get their discounts.
All right, will it exceed, does it now exceed 5%? Will the percentage change in this new
The
environment?
percentage will not change. I don't know in my head what the percentage is, but it will stay the same. That is
Okay.
part of our public benefit program.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. There are several outstanding issues that I would like for us to address as best as possible, and they are part of the concerns in terms of the action plan itself, but more specifically, the workforce reduction, the layoffs, the demographics of the pool of people being laid off has yet to present itself. And it seems to me that in order for us to make a decision as to whether we endorse, embrace, adopt that which is being proposed, it's terribly important to know that. And I would hope that that document could be made available to the council. Is there a disproportionate impact on any class of employees as is being represented? Because that has far-reaching consequences for how some of us might be inclined to view whether or not this is an equitable, reasonable, and/or defensible RIF, as it were. And so I really do need to know quite specifically. I want to acknowledge the response to my motion in November that Mr. Freeman came with. There's yet more to be decided. I trust that it's going to be heard in Commerce, Energy, and Natural Resources in the near term. because these are issues that employees at DWP, some of whom are constituents, but in the final analysis, they are individuals who will be negatively impacted. And it would seem to me we ought to be quite conscious of who they are and what the composition of that group is.
If I might respond, I have not forgotten for a single day the conversation that we had, and in the negotiations that I have conducted, I have kept uppermost in my mind the need to try to encourage the more senior people to leave and not to have bumping throughout the organization that would seriously impact the diversity in our company. And I'm very happy that Mr. Duncan and I have reached agreement last night, and that I'm confident that with the voluntary package that we will place before you, and it's up to you to approve or not, that this will alleviate that concern. But with people having the right to choose and the right to bump, until that we go through that process, we cannot know 100% for sure. But we have been very sensitive to your concern and negotiated with the idea of trying to get the situation where our diverse population can remain with us and not be thrown out.
Well, I appreciate the sensitivity. What I request at this point and have requested is a report on the demographics of those who are targeted for layoff. That has not yet been forthcoming. At least I'm not aware of it. And it seems to me that we ought to know that so that the decision can be made in the full light of day with all of the consequences before us.
Yeah, if we're delinquent, we will remedy that, but the good news is that the massive layoffs will not be needed now, in that we have agreement with all three bargaining units, and it will be primarily
So it's down to 500 approximately, is that not correct?
Yes, and
what's the demographics of that?
Mr. Ridley Thomas, we'll have to get that information for you, but your time is up.
We don't ask when that
Ms.
will be
Goldberg.
Mr. President, please, may I
Please,
ask?
Mr.
Mr. President, may I simply
I've
say...
let you go far beyond Mr. Ridley Thomas. You
I
want to
appreciate that.
Talk again, press your button.
All right, let me just simply say this. I asked for this in November by way of council motion. I'm restating it, and I would wish to have it
Mrs.
presented.
Goldberg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Yes, in the one item that has not gotten much discussion, but I do want to point out as we go into the budget time, is the item that talks about an average $34 million per year reduction in the annual power revenue transfer to the city's general fund. Basically, that's a key issue, and it's an important one. And if people want to know where the money is coming from, in essence, it's coming from the transfer to the general fund, and that's in the tune of $34 million. I wanted to point that out, not because I oppose it. I think we have to take this measure, but no?
The action today will not take that measure. That action will be deferred till the budget debate.
Okay, all right, so good. But I think we're probably going to have to do it, is what I'm saying. All I'm saying, though, is that we need to be thinking as we look at this that there are a lot of changes that are going to have to be made, and all of them are going to have impacts on all parts of the city, not just some of them. I think the idea of a 5% reduction across the board for the term of the contract is a good one. That says that regardless of what the costs are in fuel or anything else, our customers, which are already lower than the areas, our residential customers, will get a 5%, not a 5% reduction, will maintain the current reduction they have now, and that the rates of 5% reduction in residential rates in 2002 will add to that. In the industrial area, the notion of being able with our largest users to tie them up for multi-year contracts by giving them a graded up to 5% reduction over that 7 to 10 year period, I think is a very good and essential part of this document. These are not easy changes for either DWP or the city, but they are necessary, and I do believe they will position us. The two ordinances today will position us to be able to look forward to being extremely competitive, if not the most competitive agency in the Southern California area at the time that we actually come online with the other organizations. So I urge and I vote for both ordinances today.
Very good. Mr. Holden.
And I did that in under 3 minutes.
Mr. President, members, the proposal before us today is very comprehensive. You got too many actions included in the one vote. And the questions, in my view, should have been separated. One, it should have been separated on the employees that will be retained or released. It should be separated, but it's discussed here. But you adopted the accompanying ordinance. Well, anyway, on my time, you can answer a little later, because that's where it appears. It appears here that 1A, I discussed it with the staff before you got here, and I've discussed it with you if you've been here, whereas DWP reorganization to promote efficiency and create separate business units for electricity generation, transmission, and distribution, which means that DWP can become a profitable agent and competitive. Liquidating or restructuring the stranded debt is something that I think we have to consider. Other communities are renegotiating the stranded debt. When you say you're going to liquidate, is that paying it off? I think that we have an opportunity to take advantage of what other communities are doing and renegotiate that stranded debt. Even the private sector has a stranded debt because they were betting on to come as well. So we are a competitor. We equal in that category. And the public nor the council should be deceived in believing that we're in a worse shape than they are, because we are not. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're all doing the same thing.
All right, then let's go on. We should, the 5% reduction in rates for individuals and businesses for the next 10 years is excessive. And if you're going to have that authority to do that, which is okay, if the council is review it before it goes into effect. Is that part of the ordinance? I don't know. They say this report and accompanying ordinances, which was adopted by the DWP Commission. I don't have that before me. It was a thick, voluminous book. We just received it yesterday, and so therefore I don't have that detailed information, and therefore I don't know what I'm voting for. Am I voting to say that you can do something now and in 10 years we have to reap the consequences? You will be gone, everyone else will be gone, and we don't know what we've done. Somebody's got to explain that to me, and I would think that when I say separate the question on these various issues that's included in this report, I would like to have that question separated so that when you make a decision, yes, I'll give away this for 10 years, I'd like to know what you're giving away.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Holden. Very enlightening. Ms. Galanter.
Well, he's got to answer.
Well, let me see if I can.
Wait there, let him answer
It's my time now, Nate.
You're not on your time.
Yes, we are.
Start
The
at
chairman,
time all
the
over
president
again.
just called on me.
Ruth,
I heard him.
all your time. In 20 seconds or less, once you answer.
Yes, sir. The authority is to tie up the customer for 10 years so that we don't lose them once we have opened up our market to competition, and to do that by offering them half of a % discount for every year of the contract that they enter into.
All right. Mr. Holden is good. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Ms. Galanter, your time is
Thank you, sir. I wanted to try to answer several of the questions that have been raised here. The basic issue that's coming up is, are we setting something in place that is going to determine the future for all eternity? And the answer is no. What we're trying to set in place here is the ability to position ourselves for the way in which the world will change in 2002. And we cannot get ready for 2002 in 2001. If we don't do it now, as Mr. Comrie said earlier, there won't be a 2002. We can all go home and forget about it and turn the lights out on the way out. The importance of what we're doing today is that we are taking the first steps that will allow the department, in fact, to pay off the what is called in the jargon of the trade stranded costs, the debt that we wish we didn't have but we do, that will allow us, thanks in large part now to the fact that last night, finally, the third bargaining unit and the department have come to an agreement. Boy, are we all grateful for that. We are in a position now also to accomplish the downsizing, which will reduce the department's expenses, which will allow for paying off the debt. And these ordinances are designed to make sure that we don't lose customers the minute we open the doors to competition. It is within our power as the governing body of the city to say yes or no to opening our doors to competition, but the real world is going to require that we do that, and we want to be in a position to have a department that is not only surviving, but that can beat the pants off the competition. And I think we can get there. I think we will get there if we move forward. But every day we don't move forward costs us more money. So I would urge support of the committee report, which is the plan as proposed in concept. It is the two ordinances that are before us. You will note in the report that the staff prepared, the CLA and the CAO prepared, that there's some other ordinances discussed as well. And working with the general manager of the Department of Water and Power, we've all agreed that those ordinances would be premature at this time. And so we're recommending that those be sent back to the commission and that the department and the commission bring them forward at the time they become appropriate, which will be when we are much closer to opening the market. I would also point out to you that one of the things, as I've mentioned before, one of the things that comes up repeatedly as we prepare for the era of deregulation is the effect of Wall Street's attitude toward what we're doing on our ability to finance those things we need to finance. They call me after every meeting and they say, what is it, what have you guys done? Or why haven't you done this? So it's really important that we show the world that we are serious about this.
Mr. Wax.
I agree with the comment that we should sort of separate this from the employee retention issues, but this doesn't, as I read this is in no way includes any of the benefit packages to the employees that will be, that's a separate item. And I think as I read what we have before us, they are crucial management tools that are needed to be an efficient operation. You simply, if we're going to run ourselves as a business, we need to have these tools available. Ms. Goldberg was correct in pointing out, however, that while we're not taking action on the $34 million today, it's tomorrow. As I see it, however, members of council, the $34 million that will be reduced in the transfer from the DWP to the city is not as a result of these actions. The $34 million a year that you are going to find in your budget is going to be as a result of the actions you have taken in making payments to the employees who are remaining to buy their support for the layoff plan. The monies that you will be paying, the bonuses, and all of the extra amounts to the employees who will remain to get Brian Darcy and the union support for the overall plan, and the additional benefits you're going to keep on giving these people, that's what's going to reduce the $34 million, and that will be money, when the budget time comes, that you won't have for police officers and firefighters and all, because the Water and Power Department couldn't take that amount out of the pensions. They have to pay it out of their revenues, and so they're going to reduce the amount that they're going to transfer to the city, which you use in your budget for libraries and schools and all that. So I support this because this will hopefully lessen any further amounts of that kind of nonsense we're going to have to do. But I am going to remind this council, when the budget comes and you don't have your $34 million, it's not because of the actions you're taking today. It's because of the actions you have taken in the past and may take next week to buy off all the employees' favor for the layoff plan.
All right. Mr. Mark Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, the request pursuant to Mr. Ferraro's suggestion is restated. I wish to have, for the benefit of the entire body, the demographics fully presented of those who are targeted for layoff, whatever that data looks like, I think we should have clear knowledge of it. If it changes, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Comrie, Mr. Deaton, Mr. Wong, all others who are at the table, then update it for us so that we know what we are dealing with. Absent that, I think we run the risk of making decisions without full information at our disposal. I'm aware that an accord of some sort has been reached. Tell us what it looks like there so that we can intelligently respond to the constituent complaints and letters that are coming on at a rapid pace. I think we are due no less than that, and the repeated questions, the request for it, just gives rise to some of the very concerns that people are having that we are not dealing above board. I'd like to be able to deal as straightforward and candidly on this matter as possible. Mr. Freeman, if you're going to take responsibility for it, can you indicate to me when the council will be in receipt of such transmittals?
Well, we can promptly, if we haven't yet, we should have, we can promptly give you the demographics of those targeted for layoffs, but...
there are implications in terms of bumping, sir. You can just assign a narrative to it to explain that to us. I'm not sure that we know that.
The good news is that...
Ruth, if it had been heard in committee, we could have blown all this out. It is
The
true.
information would be exactly the same, whether it was
Well,
in
then-
committee or
then-
not.
then
We can-
disclose it.
We can tell
Then
you
just
who's
simply tell-
targeted, we can't tell you who's going to be laid off.
That's fine. The question is, what does it look like now? And that hasn't been done. And I don't know what the difficulty is in presenting that data. I just don't.
May I say just one
Sure.
word? Your point is perfectly valid, but I have been sensitive to your point, and one of the arguments that I am going to make in favor of the agreement is that with this agreement, we will moot that whole targeted list, and we will encourage the older people with
Show
less
us what it is
diversity.
now. That's all it is. Show us what it is. We need to attend to that. We need to be conscious of that. We need to pay attention to that.
Yes, sir, I have.
I mean, the issues related to equity and diversity do not automatically happen. They have to be attended to with the kind of care that makes sure that we reach the outcomes that we generally talk about being desirable.
And I hope to persuade you that I have when I
Well,
present.
I'll be persuaded when I receive the information before I have to vote on it.
All right, your time is up, Mr.
Information is on.
Mr. Holden.
Two things, Mr. President and members. Mr. Freeman, and I think you can understand what I'm talking about more than anyone else in this room, these chambers today. This seems to be, to me at least, a backdoor attempt to address the issue of deregulations, and I think that's what you're doing, number one. Number two, we are saying we're going to become competitive. That's okay. We're going to set up some competitive organizations to compete distribution and creation of energy. But at the same time, the law does not require that we grant you the authority, that's state law, the authority to enter into long-term agreement with major users or individuals at this time. The law doesn't say that. The law says you are not forced to deregulate. We're given 10 years from the date that the law went into effect, period. Now, I've discussed this with you before. Strategy is essential in a case like this. We know that the other energy providers are giving a certain discount early on. They cannot sustain that discount. You know it and I know it, which means that another 3, 4, 5 years, they will not be as competitive as we are if we held our rates constant. So what we're going to do now is give you the authority to negotiate a discount now, at this time, which I said to you that you had to prolong that for another 5 years. At the end of 5 years, you could probably give it a 7%. A 7% discount would be more acceptable and more exciting than those guys raising back up to where they are today, which would be more discouraging, and then we'll be more competitive because we can lose them after 10 years. The strategy is flawed. And I think you got to think this thing out to its conclusion, to the very end. And I don't think they've done that, either of you, because you got to decide who you're competing with and what their argument is going to be to diffuse our program where we'll be less competitive with them, the other providers. And I'm saying we can be more competitive, we can save more money, we don't give it early, we give it later, and give it a greater rate, and we'll have them aboard. Then you sign your long-term agreement. That's where I explained it to you, that's where it's going to work best for us. If you start doing that now, you don't have any turnaround time. You're giving up everything up front. And then at the end of that period of time, they can go where they want to go anyway. I think it's the wrong way to go. We still have to renegotiate the stranded debt. I think we ought to hire an attorney to do that and save part of the $4 billion that we stuck with. There are many things that we can do correctly, properly, with a strategy that's not being employed here today. And as I speak, the 2,000 employee, 500, I'll vote for that. But there's other deals I won't. If they're all included in the package, I'm voting against the whole thing, because that's the way I have to go today.
All right. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes, just wanted to come back to the point that Mr. Ridley Thomas was making. Let me ask you a question. Is there right now an analysis, demographic analysis of just the targeted positions? Does it exist yet? Just the targeted positions. We don't know who will take the deal, but the people who are the positions targeted, have we done a demographic analysis?
I have looked at that data, and I was disturbed by it, and it is for that reason that I have worked with Mr. Duncan and others patiently over a long period of time to work out an agreement so that it will encourage the older employees with less diversity to leave.
All right. But I do think that I think what would be helpful to have are three pieces of information to the best of your ability. One is the targeted positions, period. Second is, with the package, what changes you anticipate from that demographically. And third, if there were bumping, what changes you would expect. And those three pieces of information, I know they're all hypothetical, except for the one, which is the targeted positions. The other two are hypothetical, but I think those three on our discussion of the package would be very useful. And I would ask that we get all three. Because I know the goal of the packages is to improve the demographic picture in terms of diversity by what is left. But without seeing what the package is anticipated to do compared to not having it, compared to bumping, you don't get the sense of what the trends are or would be. And I think it would be helpful if we could have your best guess on the two that are hypothetical and the actual numbers on the ones, which is what has prompted all of the negotiations as I understand it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to be heard in this item? If not, what do we have before us?
You have the ad hoc committee report on item number 12.
All right. Open the roll on item number 12.
Do we have
Close the roll.
No, once the report's
12 ayes, 2 noes.
All right. That matter has been deemed adopted.
We have two ordinances.
Yes?
We have two ordinances.
Yes. And on the ordinances, they go over 1 week.
Right.
All right. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, number 15, called special by Council Member Fuhr.
All right. Mr. Fuhr.
Before we take up the next item, let me point out that there are 21 young business professionals from Leipzig, Germany that are here. They're on a 10-day business tour of the city of Los Angeles, and they're sponsored by the German-American Chamber of Commerce. Would they please stand? They're in the back. We want to welcome you to Los Angeles. Hope you enjoy your visit. Item number
15, Mr. President.
Mr. Fuhr.
Mr. President, I called this item special to give our fire chief the opportunity to speak to the matter. So I asked Mr. Bamatri to move forward.
Thank you, Councilman. The reason I asked to have an opportunity to speak on this is an action that was mandated by Department of Health Services to recover costs, charge costs for medical supplies. Before you is a recommendation to develop the ordinance. There are two options, option A and option B. Option B, which is the one the fire department is favoring, is full cost recovery. The fees will be set to recover the costs that are charged to the patient. Although there will be an increase to the patient cost, this will still be less than what the patients are currently paying now for those medical supplies through the hospitals. What this will allow us to do is to recover the money that will be appropriated out of the general fund to the fire department and will be sufficient to cover that cost. If we don't get full cost recovery, we will be shorting the general fund and in essence shorting the fire department and putting an additional burden on the funding of the fire department. So what I am urging today is a direction from the council as that motion is developed to develop option B, which is a full cost recovery. Amen.
Any, Mrs. Chick?
Based on what the Budget and Finance and Public Safety Committees did today in terms of coming back to you next Friday, colleagues, with a very strong recommendation on restoring some of the significant budget cuts we made recently on the fire department, I think it's of the utmost importance that we look for all ways to get full cost recovery on these new medical supply costs that we are faced with. And I don't know if this is as much a question to you, Chief, as to the Budget and Finance Committee in terms of the reasons why we were exploring an option that didn't give us full recovery and what those issues were. I assume it was discussed in committee, and so absent any of my other colleagues discussing that, could you explain to us why we would do anything but the full cost recovery option?
Is that for me?
Yes.
The issue that came up in Budget and Finance has to do with our percentage of recovery when we do charge. We have about a 50 to 55% cost recovery on all billings that we do.
A rate of recovery.
A rate of recovery on the billing. This item, the medical supplies was charged by the hospital to the patient when they were at the hospital. Because the hospitals are allowed to make a profit, they were able to charge far and above the current cost. So we are actually, now that we're responsible, we'll be charging less, but what we want to do is set that fee so it's high enough to take into account the unrecovered costs that we have so that in fact it's a revenue neutral. We cannot make a profit, but we just want to make sure we don't lose money in this proposition.
And I believe that there are recommendations also in the committee report to ask the department to continue to find ways to make our rate recovery or our billing rate higher,
recovery, yes.
wherever the resources in terms of the patients when they have the resources through insurance and otherwise.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Fuhr?
Hi. Now that we heard the report, what I wanted to contribute to this is this. The rate at which we recoup our fees is, as was stated, low, about half. Basic economics suggests if you raise a cost, you're going to make it less likely for some to want to pay. We already have a problem with recovering our costs here. So I just want to note, one of the things we discussed in Budget and Finance Committee is working together to assure our collections are more efficient. If we don't couple this increase with a very vigorous effort to collect, the increase will be a hollow gesture on the part of the council. The fire department, I believe, is going out to RFP on this as we speak to assure that our collections improve. We're going to have to be monitoring the effect of this very closely because if we simply continue to recover roughly half of our costs, we're going to be back in this body in 5 or 6 months saying we took an action that didn't achieve its intended results. So I support this today, but not without the vigorous effort on the cost recovery piece.
Okay, anyone else want to be heard on item 15? If not, prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Next item. Mr. forthwith on that.
May I take number 20 out of order? Mr. Chemerinsky has to
Mr.
leave.
Holden,
Respectful request.
okay. First of all, Mr. Alarcon has asked that we reconsider item 33. Is there any objection to that? Seeing none, the matter is reconsidered. Mr. Holden, we have some people who want to be heard on item.
This is 33?
Yeah. No, item 33 is on the desk. We reconsidered it for the purpose of you want to discuss it.
Okay.
But we're going to take item 20 because, okay.
All right, Mr.
We have,
President,
it's a public hearing item, Mr. Holden.
Yes, I move for
All right.
5 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Edwin Chemerinsky and then Richard Nasar.
Yes, Mr. President, this is dealing with the Public Privacy Act. Oh, they... Let him speak.
Mr. President, do you want to speak?
Thank you. It's truly a pleasure and honor to be before you this morning. I speak to you this morning entirely in my hat as a constitutional law professor. I'm here because I played a role in helping to draft Senator Feinstein's bill. Just to explain, when Senator Feinstein was concerned about the problem of the paparazzi, she brought together members of the Screen Actors Guild, and she also brought together 3 law professors, Professor Larry Lessig of Harvard Law School, Professor Ken Sunstein of the University of Chicago, and myself. And many alternatives were proposed as to ways to deal with the problem. And our role as law professors is to try to say which were constitutional and which were unconstitutional. The vast majority of suggestions that were made were clearly unconstitutional. But the 3 law professors, together with members of the Screen Actors Guild and Senator Feinstein and her staff, came up with a couple of very narrow ways of dealing with the problems of the paparazzi that seemed to us clearly constitutional. Her bill has 2 main features. First, it would make it a federal crime to recklessly endanger lives for commercial purposes in the process of gaining images or sound. In other words, if the paparazzi are engaged in the commercial gaining of photographs or sound, and they recklessly endanger lives by persistently following or chasing individuals, this would now be punishable under federal law. The concern is that the paparazzi truly travel from state to state, and thus there is a need for national regulation. The second part of the bill would create a civil cause of action for trespass when it is done for commercial purposes in gaining images or sound. The concern here is that much law now defines trespass as solely in a physical sense, requiring presence on property. The reality in 1998 is that technological trespass is a problem. And the bill is quite narrow. It says, if photographs or sound are taken of personal or family activity in a manner that the images or sound could have otherwise been gained only through a physical trespass, that too should be regarded as a trespass. In other words, pointing a lens into somebody's bedroom of personal activity or into somebody's living room of family activity is just as much a trespass as walking on their property. I conclude by just pointing out to you, all this bill applies to is reckless endangerment of life or trespass. These are not activities protected under the First Amendment, and that's why this bill seems important and it would meet constitutional scrutiny. And again, I so much thank you for the chance to address you this morning.
Richard Mazar.
Excuse me, Mr. President, could you ask Professor if he might come to the center table? Because I think we might want to have questions to ask of him when we have our discussion.
Okay.
He's sort of like staff.
Okay.
Mr. President, council members, I appreciate your allowing me to appear before you today. I would like to especially thank Councilmember Holden for his efforts to bring this matter before you. My name is Richard Masser. I am the president of Screen Actors Guild. I represent over 90,000 members of Screen Actors Guild. over half of whom reside in the greater Los Angeles area. For the past 2 years, the Guild has been working with many of our highest profile members and a bipartisan group of local, state, and federal officials to explore thoughtful, reasonable, and effective solutions to problems that face our members. In collaboration with legal and constitutional experts, we have addressed one such issue, the growing infringement on our members' privacy rights. The Personal Privacy Protection Act, soon to be introduced by Senators Dianne Feinstein and Orrin Hatch, is designed to give people the tools to protect themselves against egregious invasions of privacy which have been occurring with increasingly greater frequency. While it is true that these abuses are most often committed against people in the public eye, this fact makes the abuse no less real, disturbing, or unacceptable. No one, celebrity, politician, or ordinary citizen, should have to tolerate being harassed, verbally or physically abused, or spat upon in the name of a free press. There is no reason why anyone should be free to observe and photograph you without your knowledge or permission in the privacy of your own home in order to make a buck. Personal privacy is so fundamental to our collective consciousness that the framers of the U.S. Constitution felt no need to carve out a special right of privacy when enumerating the Bill of Rights. Other rights were specifically cited, first among which was that of free speech and a free press. Much of the history of First Amendment jurisprudence as it relates to freedom of the press has involved our courts attempting to balance the explicit rights of the press against the implied but deeply held right of privacy. In the 207 years since the First Amendment was authored, this balance has become progressively harder to achieve. The framers could not have anticipated the changes in the public discourse which today's technology have caused. Cameras and recording devices are everywhere. Where we live and work, we encounter them when we drive, shop, and recreate. About the only place we can feel safe from observation is on private property, our own or a friend's, where we feel confident that our actions will not be observed, recorded, or reported. For some of us, unfortunately, even these safe havens no longer exist. Before the advent of inexpensive, lightweight telephoto lenses and long-range listening devices, one could feel relatively secure that when you were in your own home, no one could closely observe you unless they entered your property. If they did so without your knowledge or consent, you would have a cause of action against them for trespass. The Personal Privacy Protection Act would translate this traditional privacy protection into a form that takes into account these technological advances to create a new cause of action for technological trespass. This would allow a lawsuit to be brought against anyone who would invade one's privacy by making a sound or visual recording of a personal or familial activity through the use of...
Are you going to be much longer? We've only had a 5-minute public hearing. It's been about 10 minutes already.
I'm sorry, I wasn't given any time on that. Okay, I'll cut to the bridge. If I may, Mr. President, I'll just submit the balance of my statement for the record. Let me just wrap up with one thing. It's true that there are existing state laws that protect us against traditional trespass and assault, but many of these laws are ill-equipped to deal with the kind of activity in which these stockerazzi engage. All current state trespass laws require an actual physical trespass before a violator can be held liable. In addition, the courts have consistently been reluctant to enforce harassment and trespassing statutes when there are First Amendment issues involved. For example, there is an exemption in the California stalking statute for constitutionally protected activity. Now, high-profile performers understand that by becoming famous, they relinquish some of their privacy. Celebrities do not expect to have absolute control over the nature of their press coverage. Neither should they be expected to give up all their privacy under all circumstances. No one, including a celebrity, should have their property subject to trespass physically or through technological means. Now, some have labeled the Personal Privacy Protection Act as special interest legislation for a small group, thereby suggesting that the rights of small groups deserve no protection. Of course, most statutes directly affect only a small special interest group, the victims of the prescribed behavior. We enact these special interest laws because all of us are potential victims. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Wax, Mr. Holden, it's your your motion, so I'll call you first.
Mr. President, I think it's pure and simple that the law has already been established, and it's clear that peeping Toms is against the law. It just so happens that there are so many loopholes, and the process takes so long. There's so many escape hatches where people who are even alleged to be performing these illegal acts find themselves not harmed. They get off. And especially with the new technical equipment, you can scoop a peeping Tom from a far distance. And the net effect for commercial purposes, the net effect is even worse because you share that illicit information that you've obtained and sell it to publications, and it's distributed around the world. I think that it's fair and it's proper for us at this time to support legislation that's constitutional, that can be established nationwide, uniform, that will protect us all, protect our First Amendment rights, and at the same time provide for our safe, secure, and our privacy. It should not longer be the case where people can't even go to the store or go to the school with their kids, or even go to the hospital or bring their wives home from a hospital, like in a recent case where the cameras were flashing. And what actually happened, this poor man was provoked to the extent where he created a violent act. He attacked. That's not right. You should not be provoked. And then what did the guy with the camera do? He sues the individual. But what if he were not there with the camera, flashing, intimidating that individual? That incident never would have happened, except for the fact that the photographer thought that he could get away with it. We have to put a stop to that. We also are going to need companion legislation whereby we locally can enforce those laws, because we can't expect the federal government to come out and deal with it, but at the same time on a local level. But it should be done, and it should be done now. Mr. President, members, I ask for unanimous vote.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Would you correct the time? You got 33 minutes. We only want, but God help us. Mr. Wax, would you press your button? Then Mr. Alarcon, and then Mrs. Goldberg. Mr. Wax, you have the floor.
Yes, I have to thank Mr. Holden for bringing this critical matter before us today. There's some irony, Nate, in the fact that this is coming from someone who never met a paparazzi he didn't like, but that's another issue. Let me ask Professor Chemerinsky. I noted when you made your comments, and obviously this is a balancing act, but you said this deals with recklessly endangering a life, basically when they're gathering these for profit. Why is the distinction for profit? It would seem to me that if you're recklessly endangering a life, whether it's for profit or not, it should be a crime. So that, for example, if a photographer who was gathering it for what would normally be considered, public purposes, or but not necessarily for individual profit. If you recklessly endanger a life, you recklessly endanger a life, and I don't know why we're making that distinction.
I don't think that this city should make...
Could we, raise that, yeah.
I don't think that this city should make such a distinction if it adopts an ordinance, and I don't think the state legislature should make such a distinction if it adopts a statute. But this is a federal bill, and Congress can only act, as you know, where there's constitutional authority. The constitutional authority for Senator Feinstein's bill would be the Commerce Clause, and the law professors who advised her were very careful to want there to be a nexus to interstate commerce. And we believe that the Supreme Court would be much more likely to uphold such a federal statute if it's limited to commercial purposes. So I'd encourage this city council and state legislature to broaden it.
Then that would follow next. If the only basis upon which Congress has a jurisdiction to act is the Commerce Clause, and that would limit this constitutionally to something as you've described in gathering this for profit, then I would suggest, and I'm sure Mr. Holden would take it as a friendly amendment, that in addition to this, we would ask the state legislature to have legislation covering the reckless endangerment, whether it's for profit or not, because in the last analysis, you're trying to protect the person whose life is recklessly endangered, irrespective of the motive of the person or the purpose for which they're doing it. And perhaps, Nate, if you would take this as an amendment, not to amend this bill, but to also request comparable legislation in Sacramento dealing with the reckless endangerment of life or event for any reason.
Okay. Mr. Alarcon?
I support this in concept, but I'm a little concerned about some of the details. For example, it calls for prohibits the persistent following or chasing of a person in a manner which causes them to have a reasonable fear of bodily injury. I mean, that wouldn't include, for example, a movie star who thought that they were being attacked by a leaf blower or something. I'm just concerned about the vagueness there. But yes, it was a joke, Mark. Anyway, my point is that it's a little vague. What might fall into that category? Air particulates, might be a problem. But and the second thing that I have concern about is that this bill has not been introduced, as I understand it. And is that correct?
Senator Feinstein's representative was here, would need to answer that question.
I don't believe the bill has been introduced, and I'm a little concerned that I think technically what we should do is support in concept. In the event that the bill changes substantively, we might want to not support it before it has been introduced. So I would like clarification on whether or not it's been introduced. And then I would like your response about the vague notion of reasonable bodily injury.
With regard to the question, oh, here.
So on the question of whether the bill has been introduced or not, Mr. Karsh?
We called our Washington office today, and they verified that she has not yet introduced the bill. It's still pending.
Well, I don't know. Would it be appropriate for us to support a bill before it's been introduced, or should we wait, or should we support it in concept? Because I think we agree on the concept. So you're. Yes. So I would amend the. No. I'm asking for some advice here.
When you get to the California legislature,
yeah, that's what I want to learn, Mr.
You will
Hogan.
learn that there's a bill called preprint. A preprint is like this piece of legislation, one that has not been yet introduced, but the introduction is imminent. And so, but you'll also know, as you know now, that it'll change along the way.
Right.
And each time it does, it'll come back to us as information, and
So
whether or not we
technically,
want to stay
we're
aboard.
approving the preprint.
That's right, the preprint.
Right. Okay. Now to the question of the vagueness of the bill.
Yes, let me start by just reading you the exact language of the provision, because I think some of what you raise is answered by it. It's brief. It says, the term harasses means persistently physically follows or chases a person in a manner that causes the person to have a reasonable fear of bodily injury in order to capture by a visual or auditory recording instrument any type of visual image, sound recording, or other physical impression of the person for commercial purposes. So it's not anything that might cause fear. It's for a specific purpose. Also, this ties into traditional language that looks at how the reasonable person would react to the situation.
Ms. Goldberg?
The question I have has to do with how is this different than the laws that were used by Schwarzenegger and Shriver in the recent successful court case. Because I don't know how they did that, and I don't know whether this affects that, but it's the kind of thing we're all talking about. And the second question I had was a little bit more about the definition of persistent following, because I think those are the two rubs that I would worry about, even though I have no problem with the concept.
In terms of the first question that you asked, Schwarzenegger and Shriver were successful by suing for false imprisonment. It turns out that they're the paparazzi. They actually pinned them for a period of time.
Erwin, would you just talk in the microphone and look at me? And don't
I'm
look?
sorry, I apologize. Schwarzenegger and Shriver were able to sue for false imprisonment because they were pinned in their car for a period of time. In other circumstances, though, it wouldn't be an instance of false imprisonment. The key difference, I think, between this bill and current law is current law in most states still requires a physical trespass. This recognizes the idea that now trespass can be technological, that if somebody takes a picture of a personal or family activity where the image could otherwise have been gained only by physical trespass, that too should be regarded as a trespass. As to your second question, with regard to persistently physically following, the whole paragraph tries to make clear what would be required, but it may very well be that we can tighten that language, and I'd be glad to talk with you and pass it on to Senator Feinstein if there's a way of making the language more specific.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, do we have an amendment?
I think that Mr. Wax's proposal to also ask the state, Mr. Alarcon, to introduce legislation that's a companion with the federal legislation is certainly something I would support. And in closing, Mr. President, I want to say that I ask for unanimous vote as I put this poster before you that was put out by Time Magazine, which shows that the first really prominent victim which caused this legislation to be even considered was Princess Diana, the Personal Privacy Act. And it was done by, well, we all know this story, and that's all I need to say. I ask for an aye vote, Mr. President.
Okay, as amended. Prepare the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Why don't we take item number 22 now?
How about 16?
Yeah, we'll get to it. Mr. Fuhr?
Thank you, Mr. President.
22.
I asked that item number 22 be special so we can discuss what is the enormous amount of money on the table for consulting contracts here. I recognize that the money doesn't come from the general fund, but it comes from other sources at the airport. But those sources at the airport could, for example, fund various improvements at the airport. Instead, we're proposing to spend over $6 million for outside consultants, and Mr. Driscoll, my questions for you center on the following. I want to know how we manage these contracts to assure that these costs aren't incurred irresponsibly. It could be easily the case that these matters are just approved without any examination. Second, I want to ask why this amount of money for outside work is necessary, given the large number of staff members we have, from lawyers to experts on environmental issues, already working for the airport. My preference, and that I think of others of my colleagues, is not to contract out for consulting services from which you will never get any residual benefit. But rather to try to do things in-house and save money if we can, even if it's not the general fund. So, Mr. Driscoll, let's start with this. How was it determined that each of these contracts was fundamentally necessary, notwithstanding the in-house expertise we have? And then if you could explain how we're going to manage the costs incurred by these outside consultants. For example, in the city attorney's office, when we go to outside lawyers, there's a member of the city attorney's staff who is on board now to question each cost. Please.
Well, this is probably the largest master planning project in the United States. It certainly is by far the largest master planning process ever undertaken by the City of Los Angeles. And speak to the legal issues first. We have 2 attorneys that are on contract with us. We also have an assigned city attorney out of the city attorney's office. You know, there are huge issues involved in all the analysis that we're going through, whether it's particularly the environmental issues. From a staff standpoint, at the airport we have around 12 to 1,300 staff at LAX itself. About 800 of those are maintenance and police security. The rest of the staff are operations staff. We have about 12 people in our total in our environmental unit. Our planning office is about 10 people, and we have consistently over the years, in order to save money and maintain efficiency, contracted out for the majority of these kinds of projects. This is so large that there's no way that we could staff up for all the environmental analysis that's required under this particular phase.
But, Mr. Driscoll, as my time is slowly slipping away here, it's not that I'm suggesting that none of these is necessary at all, but $6.2 million worth of outside contracts tell me quickly about how you're going to manage these contracts so that the city, or the airport in this case, isn't just spending money without holding very accountable those outside contractors.
We have a project management staff that reports directly to me. I have hired additionally on 2 occasions outside consultants to assist with our project management staff and myself to review each scope of work, the amount of money attached to those scopes of work, and determine whether or not that's realistic and whether or not the scope is realistic. So we're managing the project, I think, quite comfortably. There's an industry standard in terms of planning that suggests that anywhere between 0.5 and 1.5% of the project costs are spent on planning. We're below the 0.5 in as much as this project is going to cost us close to $12 billion if it's approved by this council eventually.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Driscoll, pursuant to some of the questions Mr. Fuhr posed, there is a concern that I have about the outreach program in terms of the contracts and the range of things that are yet to come online. Is there a status report? Is there a plan which we can be made aware so that when we talk about the range of opportunities that are available, we are fully confident that they have gotten out to the full range of persons who might be so inclined to participate?
Yeah, I think so. As we've looked at specifically sort of inclusion of various communities in this project, better than 15% of our current project does come under the Maybe Weeby program. But in the long term, which is the construction phase, the development phase, which will occur once we complete the analysis, we see, again, with a $12 million project, we'll have about 5,000 to 7,000 people working at that airport on a daily basis once we get this going. Tremendous amount of contracting for construction as well. We're not at that point yet to lay out every sort of scenario. We are engaged at this point in time, however, in the development of relationships with labor and the broad communities, and I will say in the initial stages of developing a jobs program in order to start anticipating, no matter what the council approves, we're going to have to do things at LAX with construction and jobs. So we have created an initial element for job development, job training, and job creation, which are going to be a major component, starting with the soundproofing program that exists right now, and we'll move then into a much broader context once we get to the point where we're actually doing construction projects at the airport.
Just a follow-up question, but is there an overall outreach plan in terms of the concept and components? Is groups like MBOC a part of the planning process and so forth?
MBOC is, and we're, as I say, on the jobs development, jobs creation program, we're probably about 3 months into part of the planning, but also now starting to reach out, and we plan to meet with the various council offices and let them know what the program is, what it's all about, and then engage them in helping us deal with community-based organizations as well as different groups in each one of the council districts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Driscoll, a copy of whatever is currently underway would be useful for me to review. Thank you.
Ms. Galanter.
Mr. Driscoll has mentioned that this is the largest master plan process ever undertaken by the City of LA. I just want you to know it's not large enough. Unfortunately, this $6 million that we're spending in this round is directed only at the issue of trying to shoehorn more runways into Los Angeles International Airport. The department also owns and manages other airports, and Mr. Driscoll and I have been talking for many months now, and he's agreed that it might be worth a little contract here and there to try to look at what can be done with Palmdale. But that is not a part of the master plan process. That contract at some point will be coming forward as well. My feeling about this is, my own personal view, as this is no secret from you, is that if this master plan in its present form stopped tomorrow, I think we could do better. But I certainly don't think that we have, or the airport has accumulated the information that it needs in order, or that I need in order to be able to make my case. And I think that we have to allow them to go forward. I appreciate the issues that have been raised. I think Mr. Feuer's concerns are well taken in the sense that Jack Driscoll is only human and can't possibly oversee all of these things personally. So there is always a question of how this works out. And Mr. Ridley Thomas's concern, I think, is also one that ought to be raised early and often. I was told actually just last evening at a community meeting that one of the problems as the airport tries to implement a broader-based business opportunity program is that smaller contractors are finding it difficult to meet the bonding requirements, and the result is that on things like the soundproofing program, you tend to get the larger companies, which tends to put us back where we started. That isn't exactly the airport's fault, but it is an obstacle that the airport will have to overcome. I urge approval of these contracts with the appropriate cautions. In our committee meeting yesterday when we discussed these, we did talk about how the separate Palmdale contract and the work looking at Palmdale might be integrated with these companies. And although it doesn't actually say so in the contract, Mr. Driscoll did assure me that all of these companies will be assigned tasks to assist the separate Palmdale study so that we can actually come up with some real information. And I guess that's all I really want to say right now.
Mr. Hernandez?
I tend to agree with Ms. Galanter. I think if we're talking about a master plan, we should be looking at Palmdale, because the reality is it all impacts the region in terms of the travelers, and whether it be international or domestic. But Mr. Driscoll, there's two things that you said. One, you talked about well beyond the 15%. The new threshold that was set in terms of MBE, WBE, DBE participation, I think is being set by ACTA, the Alameda Corridor team right now, and they're talking 22%. And I think that if you were to look at their plan, you might be able to pick up some of the things that they're doing, because they picked up on some of the work we did with the LA Arena in terms of job creation, apprenticeship programs, pre-apprenticeship programs, as well as local hire programs. The other thing I wanted to point out, and when Ms. Galanter used the concept of bonding, it's a concept that's prohibited a lot of minority businesses, disadvantaged businesses from participating. And if there's a set-aside, if the potential set-aside exists, where the initial risk is paid by the entity, the reality is you can increase that bonding capacity of a lot of minority businesses. And when I say that, the reality is the initial cost, the initial risk, who takes it? And we have found that by setting aside $1 million, $2 million for that kind of purpose, it allows for greater participation. Oakland is an excellent model. San Francisco is another model that's been using it. For some reason, we've had the difficulty in using it in Los Angeles. And I'm just throwing it out because I think that it's something we want to look at. The intent is to be inclusionary and to allow for Los Angeles businesses to participate in this process. If we don't do that, I don't think that we're really going to benefit as a whole. And if we can do that, I think it'll have a tremendous economic difference on local businesses as well as minority businesses.
Mr. Alatorre? Now, Mr. Ridley Thomas wants to speak again, so we'll call on him. Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Ms. Galanter's comments about the difficulties with bonding, Mr. Driscoll, let me refer you to a program that was fashioned by council policy with the housing department that helped them quite substantially get over the hurdle of and the impediment that the bonding issue has consistently presented small businesses. There is a precedence that could be quite useful. You model something after that program, and I think Mr. Penny and or those in the housing department could be a very useful resource. And I would like to, in the letter that you're going to submit to me in terms of the outreach plan, if you let me know what progress you made on that and what assistance I can be of in that regard, I'd be more than glad to do so. Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, we have item 22 before us.
Mr. President, I'd just like to clarify. I think what Ms. Galanter was doing was making an amendment to the committee report, because based on 390, What you need to do is approve the contract or disapprove the contract, and then request the airport to look into the Palmdale Airport planning study.
We have agreed to do that, and we will amend those contracts at our next board meeting.
Okay, but the committee report needs to be amended to
Right, so
just
we
approve
amend
the
the committee report. If they then amend the contracts at the commission level, do we need to review the amended to?
Yes, then it comes back.
It has to come back as well, okay.
No,
You mean they can't approve it today?
No.
Well, you can approve the contract today,
Yeah.
as it is.
Can we approve? Oh, no, I guess we can't.
I'd like, if we could, we'll have it on the board meeting. We have agreed on a specific language that we would include in that. The board can do it. The way this works is that our board can amend these contracts without having to come back to the council for that kind of language. So we're
That's
okay
the
on
question.
that.
That's what I was starting to
can
ask.
talk, yeah.
We're okay.
So we amend the committee report. Jack's agreed that his board's going to do this. Then do we have to, can that end it? They go and do it, and then they're in compliance with the committee report, or do those amended versions have to come back as well?
I'll have to talk to Mr. Driscoll
Okay.
and the city attorney who's here on that.
Okay.
But right
Because
now, what you
the
want
other
to do
way
is
to do it,
just-
to have it be here only once, which I don't think you would like, would be to just
have to
continue it until you've revised
No.
it, but you don't want to do that.
We can talk with the city attorney. It's
Okay.
my belief that the board can amend it and doesn't have to come back here, but we'll talk with them.
He's agreed to do that, so
Right.
there's
Well,
no
so let's
problem.
amend the committee report with that language that we discussed in the committee yesterday, and which Jack has
Are
agreed
you trying to say we shouldn't amend the committee report?
No,
I'm
she
saying
said we
you
should
need to
amend.
amend the committee report because the committee report purports to amend what the board did, and you can either say yes or no to what the board did.
But we
under
can amend the
390.
committee report so that we are saying we
Right.
are approving what the board
Exactly.
did with the understanding that the board will make revisions.
Oh, okay, prepare the roll on that. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 1
That
no.
is approved. The next item,
Next item, Mr. President, item number 16.
Mr. 16,
Call special.
Mr. Hernandez.
Councilmember Ridley Thomas called that special.
16?
Mr. President, members of the council, there is one amendment to 16, and it's basically recommended that we support it. It basically is regarding the 9th Councilmatic District and 8th Councilmatic District and projects that could be greater served by the amendment. Members, I just wanted to thank the committee members of the Housing Community Development as well as Community Development Department. I also need to thank the Mayor's Office, but there's no question that we have to recognize the work of the Community Development Department, the Housing Department, the CRA, Rex and Parks, the Cultural Affairs Department, as well as the CAO and the CLA's office. This was not an easy process. You need to know that at this particular moment, this council member's glad he doesn't chair Budget and Finance because that's going to come next. But in trying to balance the budget, the realities are we have some very difficult choices to make. And this was the toughest block grant consolidation I've had to go through in working things out and in trying to make sure we had a comprehensive plan to the use of that block grant. And I think that's before us today. Again, thanking everybody for a tremendous amount of work, and at the same time urging a unanimous vote because we have a very short time frame in which we can get this thing adopted and to Washington, D.C. I think what you see before us is a plan that will increase economic development, make projects much more competitive in terms of the City of the Alley Equity Fund, a plan that because of additional home monies allows the Housing Department to maintain the housing programs it's had in the past and continue to do that. At the same time, we have a clear understanding that there needs to be funding that allows them to be more competitive, and at this time we're waiting to see if some of that funding can be generated. The Human Services was basically not impacted by the debate and the discussions that was held intact. However, again, I got to remind everybody that the cap of 25% is not something that we can count on at all times. And I think we were able to restore the public facilities, neighborhood facilities budgets to such that none of the current projects that are online for completion, that are online for construction are impacted. But there is no question in my mind that our resources are dwindling and these decisions are becoming more difficult to make. There's a 12th neighborhood initiative, targeted neighborhood initiative in terms of the community of Van Nuys. And again, as I read the headlines of the Daily News, I keep on thinking that this city should be called Van Nuys and not Los Angeles. But the reality is we're able to satisfy the needs of that particular community in a much greater way. This is a comprehensive plan, and a lot of work went into it, and I just urge an aye vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Wax, did you want to be heard? Mr. Ridley Thomas, we have, what is there, amendment? Okay, what do we have before us? The amendment?
You have the amendment, and also on the last paragraph, the recommendation should be recommendation number 36, not number 37.
Okay, then let that correction be stand. So we have the report as amended by that. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith on that. Mr. Burnson?
Yes, John, I wonder if we could take 25 out of order. I have a need. I think it should be short.
Okay, Mr. Holden, you have somebody you want to introduce?
Yes, Mr.
A
President.
paparazzi?
Yes, Mr. President. Paparazzi, that's Italian. Mr. President, this guy's name is Ray Grabinski. Ray Grabinski, we want to welcome him to the chambers of the City Council. He served in the Los Angeles County Transportation Commission. He's a former council member of Long Beach, and he's been a friend to Los Angeles when we needed him. We were in distress on a key votes. So let's give Ray a big hand and welcome him to the city of Los Angeles. He's now with the University of California.
Is he a friend of yours, Nate? I begin to wonder about that. I thought I liked Ray before, but Ray, welcome. Okay, the next, Mr. 25, was it?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, members of the council, Ms. Goldberg called this special because she had a couple questions. Let me explain it very briefly. This is relative to an ordinance providing that the owner of a structure or a motel cited a third time for disorderly house or house welcoming or allowing prostitution be the subject to a misdemeanor penalty for the owner. And the reason for that is that the present policies and the way the city's handling it and the way the motel owners are dealing with it does not provide for any incentive for the owners of the property to desist from this type of use. What happens is that the manager is cited, the city attorney on a first offense normally doesn't do anything. They generally, after an episode like that, will get a new manager so they can avoid a second time citing of the same manager, and the problem continues to go on. What this will do will establish a standard that holds the property owner responsible for this, and the third time it will become a misdemeanor, and they will be subject to fine or even imprisonment if they don't clean up their act. So I would urge an aye vote on this. I think this will go a long way towards solving some of the problems that some of you may have in dealing with this problem with some of the motels in certain parts of the city, including Sepulveda Boulevard and along the Western Avenue corridor and so forth. So I would urge an aye vote on this.
Ms. Goldberg.
Yes, this is limited to motels.
Motels or
Commercial property, I mean.
yeah, basically commercial property where a disorderly or red light type abatement
My
activities.
concern was simply I didn't understand the expression disorderly house.
Well, that's what they refer to pandering.
We have that problem at our home all the time, and if
I understand.
I'm just saying though, but I think we have to be very careful in language, and that was the only real concern I have. I think if it can be crafted by the city attorney's office to do that which Mr. Burnson is talking about, I have no trouble with it. My problem is that the language of the motion itself
it can also relate
could
to
mean a lot of
it
things.
can also relate to locations where drug problems are taking place.
Okay, our office will take a look at this and see what we can draft to.
But I wanted to raise the issue because the notion of disorderly house If you're talking about in commercial uses, I have a different view than if you're talking about trying to figure out what it means in a residential area. If you're talking about activities which are already illegal, those are things I have much less problem with. In that case, I think you're right. It is the owner's responsibility.
Why don't we amend this why don't we amend this motion to specify where prostitution and drug-related uses or sales are involved?
And commercial property.
On commercial property.
That's
All
fine. I
right.
have no problem with that.
All right, there's
None
a,
at all. Should be going after.
there's an amendment, there's, Mr. Burnson moves to incorporate that into his report. Is there any objection? If not, that'll be the order. Anybody else want to be heard on this item? If not, open the row, close the row.
12 ayes.
All right, that issue has been deemed adopted as amended. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 23, Councilmember Hernandez.
All right, Mr. Hernandez, item 23. Do you want to be heard in that item?
Two substitute motions.
All right, there's two substitute motions.
On item 23F and 23R.
And just ask for unanimous approval.
All right, there's a motion to amend. There's no objection, that'll be the order. Anybody want to be heard in this item? If not, open the row, close the row.
12
That
ayes.
All right, that item will be deemed adopted as amended. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, you have special one, a motion by Councilmember Walters and Wax.
All right, on the findings.
Yes. On March 12th, 1998, the body of a newborn baby boy was discovered in the trash on the corner of Wall Street in Pico, and the baby appears to have died after birth. The police department have called and are asking for a reward so that they may get some community input, because so far they have had no leads. So
All
the
right.
council needs to make the findings. The need to act arose after the posting of the agenda, and there's an immediate need to act.
All right, on the findings. Any questions? Open the row, close the row.
12 ayes.
All right. On the issue, do we have to do a motion? All right, there's a motion to approve. There's, open the row, close the row.
12 ayes.
All right. Item will be deemed adopted. Next item. All right, there's no objection to item 38 forthwith? There's no objection, that'll be the order. Next item?
Next item, Mr. President, you have closed session items 43A and B.
All right, on closed session, anything else before that?
Public
Public
comment.
comment? All right, anybody want to be heard on public comment? If not, public comment period is closed. Anything before we recess into closed session?
Item number 33 was requested to be reconsidered by Councilmember Alarcon.
All right. Is there any objection to reconsideration on item 33? If not, that'll be the order. Mr. Alarcon. There's a motion to reconsider. All right, go.
Yeah, this is a reward motion. The only reason I wanted to reconsider it is because this does not involve a homicide. It involves a shooting and a victim of a shooting, and I'm concerned about setting a precedent of, I mean, if we did a reward for every shooting, it could be very costly. So I'd like to know, were there special circumstances involved in this one?
And item 33, whose is that?
Goldberg.
All right, Ms. Goldberg.
The police department asked us to do this because we have a situation of people preying on senior citizens. And they believe that people, it's happened more than once, they believe people actually have some idea who it was that was doing it, and they believe that this will help bring people forward.
Okay.
And it says seniors driving in a similar car were also shot at. So I just think that it's a... It's a fairly narrow area, but it's a particular issue, and I think that they're trying to nip this in the bud.
I think we have to move.
All right, there's, anybody else want to be heard on this item? Mr. Hernandez.
I just want to mention that my understanding is that the reward program is one that basically is recommended by the police department.
Right.
It's not necessarily because someone was was killed, depending on when the police
It's been used
department
primarily
leaves.
for that, but not limited to.
Yeah, we have a standing policy to do it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a homicide. I just thought that we ought to make sure we knew why, because we have a lot of shootings in the city.
Anybody else want to be heard in this item? If not, open the roll, close the roll.
11 ayes.
All right, that item will be deemed adopted. Anything else to come before besides closed session? If not, we'll recess into...
Mr. President, motions for posting and referral.
All right. There's no objection on motions on posting and referral. That'll be the order. Next item. Anything else?
No, that clears the desk, Mr. President, for closed session.
All right. Well, everybody that is not here on this item, on closed session, if they could please remove themselves. For the historic and heartfelt goodbye. All right, and a group photo will be taken at that time, so we would appreciate you being on time, 9:30. Wednesday, the 25th. For Mr. Holden, Nate, make sure that you're on time. They're going to take a picture. We know you'll be on time. We'll tell you after. I mean, if you weren't here. All right, what do we have before us?
You have a motion to approve, authorize the city attorney to expend $150,000 in settlement and authorize the city attorney to demand thereon payment to Jacqueline Domack and her
All right.
attorneys.
On the settlement offer, open the roll, close the roll.
10 ayes.
All right, that'll be deemed adopted. Next item.
You have another settlement offer in the amount of $350,000 on item number 43B.
All right, there's a motion to approve the settlement. Open the roll, close the roll.
10 ayes.
The item will be deemed adopted. Anything else to come before the House?
That clears the desk, Mr. President.
All right, any adjourning resolutions? Let everybody please stand. Mr. Alicon.
Council members, I have 3 adjourning motions. First of all, I would ask that we adjourn. The first 2 were given to me by Councilman Bernson, so I'm introducing these on his behalf. Saab Ina Moskowitz died on March 17th. She's the mother of Joe Moss, and she is survived by Joe Moss and his family. The second one, Mr. Bernson asked me to introduce, and I was not aware of this, but this is somebody that I know personally. Manuel Ibarra, his son is, Tom Ibarra, is very active in the Sun Valley Chamber of Commerce and is a sales manager with Crown Disposal in Sun Valley. A very close friend of my family. In fact, Manuel Ibarra grew up with my mother and father at different times in their lives, so I'm very sorry to hear about that. So I'd like to join in with Mr. Bernson on that motion. Manuel leaves his wife Ruth, 3 sons, 2 daughters, 10 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandson. Finally, council members, there are certain times when we introduce these adjourning motions, and they're kind of special to us. This one is somebody who's been very helpful to my Sun Valley office. He's a volunteer, but about 3 weeks ago I stopped by my office just to do some work. I really wasn't planning to be there, and he came in, to say his goodbyes. It was a very sad thing, but he thanked us for working with him. He is extremely active in our cleanup programs in Sun Valley. And So I'm deeply saddened that just a week after he came to say goodbye to my staff and myself, he passed away as a result of cancer.
Give me his name, the name.
His name is Richard Barrett, Richard Rosales Barrett, and he passed away at the age of 62 from lung cancer. He was born in San Antonio, Texas, and he moved to Sun Valley in 1947. He enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1955 and served in the Korean War. He was a retired auto mechanic and was very active in the community. He was very active with Ahead with Horses, which Mr. Wax and I are very familiar with, active at Glenwood Elementary School, and was very involved with the cleanup programs in my council district, and probably, I'm sure, in Mr. Wax's district as well. He even took in a homeless family of a father and 2 children who were, the children were 10 and 11. Just a super human being. He just wanted to pitch in. You know, he didn't have a lot of criticism. Certainly he had some concerns, but he just wanted to help. And my staff in Sun Valley was very sad to lose Richard Barrett. He is survived by Phyllis Jean Marr, and Lelia Marie Barrett, and numerous other relatives.
Right. Any other adjourning resolution? Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, I ask that we adjourn in memory of a neighbor of mine, Mr. James Morrow, who passed away just March 9th and lived in my district, in fact, my neighbor. Certainly he's going to be missed. He was 83 years old. Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
It's a sad day for me and for the members of my staff, and certainly for the family of Ira C. Massey, who passed away this morning. Ira was a graduate from Prairie View College from Texas, ROTC. Lieutenant Ira Massey served in Korea and worked for the city of Los Angeles in the health department until they transferred it to the county, where he served as a health inspector. I met Ira when I ran for the Senate in '73, and has been a friend ever since. Came on my staff as a consultant when I became a member of the City Council, and been with me until this day. This morning, he passed away, and I must tell you, it's a real sad day for us all.
I'd like to second that. All members on that. Any other adjourning resolutions? Not. Clerk, call the roll. All right. Meeting is adjourned.